as it looked.
I guess
just because
there are only what 2 or 3 sentries in there.
Yeah, definitely, just with the Guardian Shield. But yeah, since Zealots are so cheap, it wasn't actually as big of a loss as you'd think it was, just because he didn't invest so much into his army.
That's actually a really good point. And units lost tab actually reflects that. We've only got about 300 more units lost for Naniwa. So I'm actually learning quite a lot here. So basically, Naniwa is actually just doing this kind of play, which I more often see out of Terran, where they kind of just use part of their army to shark around the map a lot, do quite a bit of damage or force their opponent into a certain position. And then if they lose it, especially against a Zerg opponent, they don't seem to really care that much because they've been macroing behind it really, really hard. Oh, and because Marines don't cost that much. So we see here, let's do a bit of an analysis of this little battle. Let's go back through that and take a look at what happened. So, I mean, looking at this map control, Nani's got the pylon in the bottom right. He's like sharking around the map, keeping his eye on everything, keeps moving these observers up despite them getting scanned and running into turrets and such. And he's kind of pulling back after losing that army because he knows he's weak. He's almost 20 supply down. But what he's really, he's just waiting for these extra upgrades to kick in. He's at 3-2, almost 3-3. Okay, so you can definitely see why he'd want to pick a fight at this time. Storm just finishes, and 3-3 just finishes. And you might think, oh, his army's so small, but as long as he only loses the Zealots, I mean, it's not going to cost him that much. And the potential for Storm to absolutely shred this bio is really massive.
Yeah, he has like 5 Storms.
And actually loses quite a few of them, but he's still got 2 Storms left. And that's all you really need in a situation like this. And just pulls back, and then just throws some Storms, and losing the Zealots for all this bio. And look at this, targeting the medevacs. He knows where the money's at. If he can kill those medevacs, then that gets him really far ahead. So that's actually a really beautiful engage for him. And now at this point, I guess when you're on 3 bases, if you can manage to get to this point, you can keep warping in those Templar, warping in these Zealots, and you can use the fact that Zealots cost so little to actually keep taking the map. So I think we'll probably see Nani take a 4th in the near future. He's definitely got the money to do it, and just keep up this kind of sharking around the map presence. So do you think it's dangerous if the Terran kind of did sneak, say, 2 or 3 dropships by? Do you think he'd have trouble handling it? I mean, he has a good number of gateways. Okay, he has a good number of gateways times by 2.
It's a huge number of gateways.
So this is something you see a lot with higher level players, which I see people, even in Grandmaster, don't do this a lot. As soon as you get a 3rd base up as Protoss, I notice all the really, really top pros love to mass those gateways up. So I'm going to pause the game real quick before we go into this next engage. And obviously the purpose of this and having this good amount of free supply is so you can just warp in anywhere to defend. I mean, he's actually pulled those Zealots and High Templar out of his main base. So he was sharking around the map so much, he kind of realized, hey, there's no drops out there. I'm kind of engaging my opponent's whole army. I'm just going to pull them all back. And if he does drop me, I've got 12 gateways. I can warp in 12 Zealots. As long as he doesn't catch me right after a warp in. Is this something you like to do in the late game as well? Just pull all defenses out of your main? Or do you think a few cannons kind of helps out as well?
I think it's specific to this sort of scenario because he killed off all the medevacs. Well, a very good number of them. So he's not really afraid of drops. And if there is, a 12 Zealot warp in is going to be enough for like 2 medevacs at least to at least buy enough time. So I mean that's very specific to this sort of thing. But I think if you're being aggressive, then you can leave your defense being a bit shaky. But if you're playing a really passive sort of style, like with the old school Colossus style, then it's really imperative that you just have your defense against drops solid, because that can outright kill you if you mishandle it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's something we've seen so many times where it's just clunky Colossus going around, getting picked off by like 1 or 2 Marauders, and Robo Bays going down and such. So yeah, definitely the charge lots, and because you've got so many more upgrades faster as well, the warp-ins can just absorb so many more of these Marine shots. So with this next engage, I mean, this point of the game, we see this massive bank for Naniwa, whereas Artist's obviously spending his money really well, and I guess he doesn't really want to have... Do you feel like there's kind of a point where if he just clumps more stuff here, it's not really going to be effective, and he's just going to have the potential to lose everything in one go? Because I feel like, especially the way he's sharking like this, he is getting caught out of position quite a bit, and he's kind of just saving his warp-ins and saving his money a little bit. but I am surprised he's not taking a 4th base. Do you think that... I mean, I personally think take a 4th, take a 5th at this point. What are your thoughts on that, man?
Oh, sorry. Someone was talking to me.
No worries, man. So I'm thinking he should take a 4th base. He should take a 5th. I think whenever you're up on 3 base like this, definitely, I mean, sharking like this is really great. Naniwa's trying to get a good engage up here. But definitely, I mean, not everyone can just control their units this perfectly and shark this well. I mean, but the idea is not too hard to execute. It's simply moving up, kind of pulling back as soon as your opponent kind of actually gets into engagement range. But behind this, he is actually swapping into Colossus. So this is something he's really fond of, doing these late game swaps into Colossus. Even if he opens Colossus, not going past just the 3, stopping there, hoping the Terran will overproduce Vikings. Once he kills them all, doing something like a 3 Robo Colossus transition, which is actually getting really, really popular. I had someone do that to me when I was going mutas this morning, actually. That was pretty funny.
Colossus transitions are nasty.
Yup. So, I mean, I really think you should just be taking a 4th and 5th base, and I mean, getting this Colossus and all that, it's great, but he definitely doesn't need to wait for it, and he's obviously trying to find an engage here. I think definitely use the upgrades while you've got them. I mean, Artist's been upgrading like crazy as well, but why do you think Naniwa is so confident just sharking around like this and looking for these engages? Do you feel like it's easier to micro these battles when you're being aggressive? Because I think that's the case. I think you're kind of pulling back when you're macroing, and then you're just going back straight and pressuring them, and your opponent's kind of constantly afraid that you're going to engage, but you're always constantly ready for when the actual engages are going to happen. So you're going to have your units spread a bit better, you're going to have them positioned more well. Do you think that's pretty good advice? Because I would personally think, yeah, I think definitely being the aggressor is easier to micro.
Yeah, 100%. If you're doing some sort of like this style where it's a lot of aggression at the same time, it's definitely a really good point. You're messing up his flow, but yours is really standing strong, so you can sort of get an advantage in that sort of position. I think if you're playing more of a passive style and you're going for a big attack, then that doesn't really come into play, and it's much better to have the defensive positioning of your big army with the arc and whatnot.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's a really good point. And I guess if you play the defensive style with mass charge lot, like, it doesn't really make sense specifically, because the units obviously can be hard counted by something like a blue flame swap. Let's actually talk about that. Is that, I mean, that's really hard to swap into. But if you've got a Terran on 4 base, is that something you'd be afraid of, going charge lot Archon composition? Blue flame swap.
What?
Yeah, man.
That's stupid.
It sounds stupid, but I've seen MVP do it with like so much success. I've seen like just 30
really?
zealots die in one volley from about 15 blue flame hellions. Yeah.
I suppose, but I mean, like, he's being so aggressive here. Like, Terran doesn't really have enough. Like, he doesn't have any time to transition.
Absolutely.
I mean, even if he does, like,
yeah, definitely not.
His economy at the moment, with the amount of money he's banked, like, he can just transition into Stalker Archon, and that'll destroy him.
Absolutely.
Basically. But
definitely, I mean, if for Terrans on 4 base, I think it's something... There's a small potential for it. I just remember old school Terminus games when it first came out. There was a lot of these big mech armies against Protoss, and just masses of blue flames kind of running around, roasting huge numbers of zealots, which everyone was kind of relying on to absorb the tank fire. Obviously, Archons, though, they do pretty well against tanks as well. So, yeah, it's kind of not that great a point, really. I'm like, is that something that's really clever, like going blue flame? If you think about it, no, the Archon is still going to just absorb 20 tank shots per Archon or something ridiculous like that. So anyway, this next engage, let's play through that and see how it goes.
Alright.
So this, I mean, I've like accidentally left the replay timer out, whatevs. So everyone knows that the game's about to finish. Obviously, it doesn't look like a really good spot to engage here, but if you can ever catch the Terran army exposed... And okay, so...
It's like a horrible engagement. Like, I don't know how he wins this, but I mean, it's...
Okay, the one thing he got there is just what I said about that kind of being the offender, the guy on the offense is easier, in that he kind of caught all the ghosts out in the middle and managed to kill them.
Yeah.
That's just about it, though. Other than that, yeah, I mean, he's going into some horrible positioning, but these Marauders are kind of stimming themselves down.
Yeah, they stimmed themselves down, and then he ran out in the middle of nowhere, and then he basically
Had to stim
let
again
the
to
cells-
run back, and then
Yeah, and the whole point is Naniwa's been keeping the medevac countdown. Oh my
Exactly,
god,
yeah.
that was a huge storm. Oh,
that really was massive. Obviously, about 10 seconds before. I think it was about 10 seconds ahead of you. But yeah, those medevacs just didn't get a chance to regen the energy, and you know it's kind of almost a funny usage of the whole shield mechanic, and that is like, shields regenerate for free. Zealots are pretty much free. If I keep forcing these mini engages where you stim your whole force, but all I lose is a few zealots and shields, eventually your medevacs are going to be down on 0 energy, and all my units are going to be back on full shields. I'm going to be a few zealots shorter, but if you don't have that healing, and then I can kind of force you to basically have no healing, then that's actually a really, really interesting way to play it. Something that could definitely have its drawbacks, though. If you're going into these kind of bad engages just trying to force stims out, I think you'd have to be really careful. But, I mean, it definitely worked out for him there. If you can keep applying pressure, medevacs kind of lose their potency as more and more stims have to get used up. So yeah, man, any thoughts about the build Nani did in this game?
I really like it. I'm probably gonna experiment with this a bit more.
One
'cause
gate
I haven't
FD
really-
into what? Second gate and 2 forges, right? And then
Yeah, those forges are hell early.
yeah, double
Like,
up
really
straight
up.
away. So for anyone who doesn't know, obviously the upgrades got cheapened. How much did they get cheapened by? Because I didn't actually. Supposedly they're cheaper, but they look like they're the same prices to me.
Not by a significant amount. I think 2.2 went from 175 to 150.
Okay.
And 3.3 went from 250 to 200, I think.
Okay, so we've got some small savings on the upgrades, a bit of gas, a little bit of minerals. Not really too big a deal. No doubt everyone's going to be whining about it though, so it should be interesting when Protoss finally start winning some games to hear about how it's imbalanced because they have the cheapest upgrades. Should be fun. I'll be sure to abuse you on ladder each time you beat me with better upgraded units, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that.
Hells yeah.
3 and 3 forges.
Well, anyway, man, thanks for coming on and helping me with a matchup which I don't really know a lot about. As you can tell, there's general concepts I can apply where it's like, this is Starcraft. I understand Starcraft, but being completely out of the loop with the PvT metagame, not having played Protoss or Terran for ages, and always being absolutely horrible at TvP late game. I just cannot micro Ghost in the late game, or my Marauders and Medevacs get clumped up on the same group, and I'm trying to stim my Medevacs and run my Marauders away, and
Yeah, the
strange
Terran
things
micro is
happening.
like ridiculous. Like stimming, ghosts, EMPing at the right spots, concaving, Viking focus firing, and so much Terran to do. No, hey, move.
Gotta love that Protoss late game. Oh yeah. And there's actually a Zealot with like a fireball on it at the end of this game. Oh, this is crazy. It's got flame on its head or something. Stopping the... I'm excited. Alright, man, thanks for coming on and yeah, helping me understand. I'm going to swap over to the Terran side of this game now with Aya guys. So yeah, thanks for that, bro, and I will talk to you later.
Alright, alright.
Okay, guys, swapping out to the questions. Sorry, I maybe should have kept Yang on for those. Alright. I'm so bad at swapping scenes and everything. As you guys can tell, I need guests with me for this one because I don't know that much about Protoss West Terran. I'm so behind. I've been watching a lot of it, but a lot of the subtleties are evading me. Because I've been watching it just for entertainment, I haven't really been analysing it too closely. That being said, do you think that Nani should have, seeing that the Terran was mostly going bio, but with Ghosts, do you think that Nani should have switched at some point and started Colossus production? Or are Ghosts not that much of a threat to the Templar and Archons? Basically it's the risk of EMP hitting or not. And that's what Siege is asking. I think Naniwa was swapping to Colossus in that game. He is making a very kind of steady swap over. I believe he only had 1 robo. He might have been doing more, but he loves that 3 robo transition. I've seen him do it in multiple games. Excuse me. A lot of other players do as well. Like we saw Ice doing it before. Sorry. So yeah, basically, I think definitely swapping to Colossus is something you need to do. The way Nani was playing it was specifically crazy aggressive. He kind of saw